Cold, welcome back. We're gonna get you into the music once Grant gets it going, and then we'll. All right, the boys are off the leash. A little intro into the intro, and welcome to Pot of Gold. I'm Brett. I'm here with at Gold Mike, Mr. Mike, and then Grant the intern, the best producer in all of podcasting for LSU sports. He got the award last week.
Last
Congrats,
week.
Grant.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, it was a nice little ceremony.
And look where it gets us. Look where it gets us. Hit us up on Twitter.
Do we have an ad read today? I don't know if I need to have one pulled up.
I think you got it right. They didn't send it to me because I didn't think about it.
Yeah, I got it. You give us our plugs, and I'll have everything pulled up. Just a second.
Hit us up on Twitter at potofgold, at potofgold@gmail.com, at Gold Mike, at Grant the intern. Like and subscribe, do all that stupid stuff that everyone begs you to do. Share it with your friends. Football season's coming. LSU offense season preview coming up in just a few minutes. Mike is vigorously typing away into ChatGPT right now, trying to.
Hey, no, this is 100% legit.
All right, yeah, well, do you have it? Are you ready?
No, you guys need to start talking about Manziel.
Oh, Johnny Football Doc. We actually did delay the podcast a day because I was like, Mike, you're going to have to settle in and watch the Johnny Manziel doc tonight. Like, we can't. There's just too much good stuff in there. So we're definitely going to dig into it maybe deeper towards the end of the podcast because it feels like Mike's getting close to ready. But
I forgot my password. It's not going to work.
Okay, look, we'll do a mid-roll ad read.
Yeah,
does that work with the sponsors?
Yeah,
Grant.
Yeah, they're gonna send us. They're gonna send it over to Grant in a little bit.
Text them and make sure. If not, we'll just scrap this whole thing and start fresh because it's gone so well to start. We might as well.
Yeah, well, we got dropped by Blue Wire, and we're still trying to sort through our ads and make sure we have the correct ones on file. But the producer's there for that. We did give him an extra 2 days to prepare, so he's been working on a lot of special segments. We had a lot of fun last week. Doing the name guessing game. So we told him, hey, if you can make a fun game like that every week, obviously we don't want to be aware of it ahead of time, to get an advantage there. But we're going to do that. We're going to follow that. We're going to follow offensive, I guess, preseason discussion for LSU, like offensive personnel discussion. And then we're going to go ahead and get into some fun games.
We were in here for an hour. And we didn't even plan a single part of the podcast.
Well, we got our first ad here. We finally got it pulled up, so we're good to go. This has not been pre-read, so here we go. Hey there, rodent wranglers. Tired of playing hide and seek with those pesky pests? Introducing our rat poison, the ultimate whisker whisperer. Say goodbye to uninvited furballs and hello to critter-free kingdom.
I'm glad you did that ad read because I read that as fuck balls.
Yeah,
there was
I don't have the rest of it. It's like a gourmet buffet for rats with a teeny tiny twist. Remember, folks, our poisons so effective, even rat chefs give it 5 stars. So grab a scoop, sprinkle with a grin, and let the rat race begin. Who knew pest control could be this exhilarating? Rodents, you won't be missed.
There's just some people so pissed off right now. It's like it's 4 minutes into the podcast,
and we still have to talk about the fight. I want to talk about the fight. I want Denver Harris. I want to shit on Denver Harris. I want to be upset about Colin Simmons going to Texas. I want to talk about how the offense is dominating the defense. Come on, give me the bad news.
Let's rip a couple of those Band-Aids first and then dive just head first into everything offense. So, Pulse of the Nation, what are we feeling? Are we feeling Texas for Colin Simmons tomorrow?
I've always felt that way. I thought it was kind of fun to just be like, oh, shit, cool images. I'm glad he came with Caden Durham. But
the bat.
The bat was great. And like Brett mentioned, go ahead.
Yeah, no, he better give that bat back if he goes somewhere else. Like, we will pack the truck and go find it if we need to.
Yeah, there's no excuse for him to keep the Marucci LSU bat if he does choose Texas. I think he would be in good graces to send that back. If not, we're going to go take that bitch in 2 years. So, or 3 years, I think. We'll see. Anyway, Colin Simmons to Texas is starting to pick up steam. It is the night before the commitment. Obviously, all the experts that rope you in for a month or two at the night before, now they're flipping their picks to Texas. So, money well spent. But yeah,
More's happened in the last day than has happened in 2 years in the recruiting cycle.
yeah, and that's what you have to expect, But hey, listen, at the end of the day, you got Womack, you got Wiggins. You're going to have a good slate of defensive ends for the next couple seasons, regardless of what happens with Simmons. I think Caden Durham pops to LSU, the running back out of Duncanville, so we might be able to go 1 for 2 tomorrow, but we'll see. Anything can happen. You never know. Maybe he pulls a surprise and comes to LSU, but all the people that are known for their expert picks at the last minute and really care about their statistics are late night flipping to Texas. So,
which is expected. It would suck. It'd be one of those things where it's like, if you could put that dude in your class with how much you've built up already in the state of like all the top talent, to be able to go do that and say like, hey, we're back in the 5-star DNs, the 5-star tackles. Like, we're here again. It would be nice, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, we'll see. And listen, I mean, this is a podcast that we record, and so who knows? Maybe by the time you're listening to this, Colin Simmons is one of the biggest commits we've had in a number of years, and y'all are like, "What are we doing for the first 10 minutes of this podcast?" Like,
as
what the
big
fuck?
as Tridon Holloway.
Yeah, Tridon Holloway is the new way of Brian Kelly's pronunciation of Trendon Holiday. Kudos to him for trying to go through that name and Aubrey, and be able to succeed.
He hit Contravis Aubrey like beautifully.
Yeah, he was able to succeed on Contravis Aubrey, but Trendon Holiday gave him some fits. And but no, I the only reason I knew who he was talking about is because I had just read that on Twitter that Trendon Holiday just graduated from college. I'm just like, whoa. I remember walking to the dining hall with that cat, and he was older than us.
Yeah,
and
I was
here he is
walked like the biggest man on campus. But yeah, it was he obviously wanted to give a shout out to Tigers who came back to graduate, and he like paused and he like tried to say it, and then he went for Tridon Holloway, and it was so bad that I was literally trying to come up with like, well, there had to be someone else that like didn't really play much, just a dude on the team named like Holloway, and I'm like, no, he was definitely going for Trendon.
And how about the respect from the media? Not a single peep of just like, never mind, let him have that one.
Excuse me, Brian.
Yeah,
I don't like when they call him Brian in the press.
I know. I don't either.
Give me a coach.
I don't like
this
the Brian
clip.
talk.
When was this?
It was this morning, like yesterday,
yeah.
Today's press conference. He just was.
Like, what was he referencing to?
He was congratulating former alumni that have finished their degree and came back to graduate. And he was reading off, and Tridon Holloway was one of them. But like, he knew he was fucking up too, because he was reading and he's just like, fuck it. Like,
yeah, no, you could tell. He was like, I should have just like said the 5. Like, I shouldn't have named any of these motherfuckers.
Yeah, he definitely let out a good like gasp, just like, I fucked up here. And he just like kept rolling through it. And then he got Contravis Aubrey somehow. So
wow.
And I've never been able to get that till just now.
Contraford?
Yeah.
Oh, dude. All weekend, I was thinking about how, or maybe it was Monday, whenever there was some Contraford Bradford, like, hey, this dude's looking good. He's ahead of schedule. Like, I can't tell you how excited I was just thinking about like this dude just blowing up like 3 years after the whole Contravis, like Contraford. It would make the season that.
And every time we start getting into this conversation, I don't know what his name is. I forget his name.
I'm done. I'm already forgot. I couldn't tell you.
Speaking of media relations with coaches, how about Mike Norvell? Here's the truth of this. Apparently, but they said good morning back, and he just immediately was just like, it's just a good morning. You don't have to respond.
It's such a funny fucking clip of him trotting, like showboating, and just the utter disgrace. It felt like it was one of those things where, like, every morning this kid films his neighbor running by his house and does something stupid, and it annoys him every time, and we
Yeah.
just finally caught one. Like, it just the quickness that he snapped, like, there's no way that this was a first time incident. None.
No, no. And it really reminded me of back when I was nursing and I was getting into the operating room for the first time and trying to like communicate with the physicians, like in the heat of the moment. And you finally feel like you're on good footing and they hit you with like one of those fucking just like, you don't need to respond to everything. Or
Yeah.
it's just
You
like,
don't have
all
to
right.
say check after everything.
Yeah.
It's not a kitchen, not yes, chef. Just give me the scalpel.
See, I heard it as like the person took too long to say good morning back to him. So he's like, I said good morning.
No, he
it's
was
like,
just like, you
let
don't
me say
need,
good morning, video
yeah,
trotting, and don't fucking say anything. The 100.
yeah. We don't need to have a conversation just because I say good morning. Now, I did read many of the replies, and a lot of it was like, okay, obviously all you people don't follow Florida State media. Of course I don't. But apparently this is like an ongoing sarcastic joke between him and the media. Like he just fucking picks
See, I
fights
don't
with
want to
them.
know.
I don't want to know. I know. And that kind of ruined it. It's like, damn, I thought he was nervous about
We're
our
gonna have to edit that out.
It's just such. I watched it so many times just because you can just pick up these little things that just crack me up.
Well, it's
every
just such
time
a
I watch
douche
it.
move because he was just like, please say it. Please say it. Like, he wanted that dude to say good morning back so he could
Right.
hit that.
Like, why couldn't you just keep trotting when the dude fired back a good morning into the ether outside? Like,
I love the giddy up too. It's like it was a walk to a jog. It wasn't just like a continuous.
3, 2.
Yeah.
I'm
All
gonna
right, turn on the cameras.
Yes, it was it felt very Perkis system, like
Yeah, you don't have to
100%,
reply.
dude. Yes, yes. Turn off the camera. You don't have to reply.
It's gonna be bad for the clip. Now we have to cut audio.
It's so funny. I never have liked Mike Norvell more than that like 4-second clip right there.
It was great. It was great.
I mean, I think we got a little bit. We have to talk for like a minute and a half on the fight because if we would be remiss if we didn't bring up the altercation at practice.
So apparently, according to Matthew Brune, he went into it in big detail. And here's the deal, man. Like, this is such a non-story that now it's turned into a story. Like, it's one of those then like now we have to talk about this because it's like the first time the media's had this much access to practice that they're just like, whoa, a fight that lasted longer than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
It's
With
like,
star
dude,
players.
with star players. It's like, yeah, it's bad. It sucks, but like, guys, this is at everybody's camps right now. This is like every level of fucking football, no matter if it's fucking 7-year-olds all the way to the NFL. If you're practicing against your own team in August after maybe more than 3 days, like you're going to beat the hell out of each other and get in so many fights. It's going to happen.
It's one of those things like you're going up against the same dude every time. It's not like you get to play another team the next week. Like 100% understand why Brian Kelly doesn't want it. Like, it's like you don't want anyone getting hurt. Like these your brothers, all of that. I get it. But like when you're surrounded by the best athletes, some of the best like alpha males in that 18 to 21-year-old age bracket, like you're gonna catch some of this. And it's like if you knew some of the shit that used to happen in locker rooms and stuff, they used to literally like fucking beat people in the locker rooms. Like Foster Morrow, for the first time in like history, like came out and actually like said it. But apparently, like it used to be wild. And so it's just like for something like this, it's just like, okay, yeah, that's fine.
It's a story.
Offensive defense doesn't have to
as
like
long
each
as
other
no one
anymore.
really is like hurt,
Well,
like someone didn't like put someone else in the hospital.
And that's the danger, right? That's the danger that goes into it. But I think the big
it's
takeaway,
not acceptable, but it happens.
The big takeaway here is that Brian Kelly was probably happy this happened, in my opinion. It was just like, it's like, oh, great. I'm glad I get this moment to teach on this and get this shit out the way like day 5 instead of us having a brawl during a walkthrough before Florida State. It's like we're getting the fucking head case situation whenever we're under pressure. Because like obviously, based on reports, the offense is fucking killing the defense right now. So I'm sure tensions are high. They want to fucking make a play. Apparently it started with Neighbors and Perkins. So obviously, like, I don't know if there was like a fucking big first down and he, is standing over the All-American's head and gives him a little dick push. I don't know what happens, but that's typically the case. They start scrumming, and of course, Denver Harris, A&M boy, loves a scrum. Apparently rips off his helmet, gets in there with Lacey. And once that happens, it was 11 on 11. And apparently, according to Shea Dixon, it was like this massive group going up and down the field, hitting each other. And so, obviously it was like, damn, guys, like, we're better than this, right? And so I think Kelly utilized that as like, listen, if you want to win a championship, you can't do shit like this. I mean, the margin for error, when you're in a tight game and you fucking lose your cool and take a swing at a fucking Alabama player at Alabama when the game's on the line, you're losing the game now. You're giving them an extra possession. Like, if we can fix that and have a teaching moment on like day 5, that's a win for this team, because they're going to get over this. They're going to know, like, hey, fuck, media blew this up. Like, maybe we shouldn't be brawling with each other and just fucking get better. If the defense is pissed that we're not, stopping this offense, one, hey, our offense is pretty good, so maybe this is a good thing. But two, let's step up and do this the right way.
Yeah, I think a similar scenario of a camp fight has happened in 90-ish% of Brian Kelly's years coaching.
Well, even
I also wondered though, like, do you think he was like, right when it started, he was like, yes, okay, good, we got some fire. Oh shit, like, this is different than the Notre Dame fights. Oh shit.
Yes, I'm sure that's probably why it went on so long. It was probably just like, all right, let him go. Actually
they'll tire themselves out.
Yeah, and then he's probably like, Flint.
Did y'all see what this thread on this website the guy started? What he said? And he said,
repeat that.
This got a niner in there.
This guy's post on the, I didn't want to say the name, on the Voldemort site, as you'd say.
They're talking about sponsoring us, so we're going to start pumping the TD brand again.
Perfect. So his thread on Tiger Drop is, the guy said, not happy at all today. Really struggling at work when I think about our boys out there fighting at practice.
Yeah.
And then he goes on and is like, we are one team, one heartbeat, all this stuff. And then he's like, going to get back to work and hopefully we can get our heads on straight.
I'm going to get back to work. Yeah.
Not at all happy. Really struggling at work.
Especially considering there was no injuries, no broken hands, no stomped feet. Like,
I mean, can you imagine Mason Smith like fell and fucking tore his ACL?
No,
we would have a different discussion right now.
We would have a different discussion.
Get Denver Harris out of our program.
Yeah,
it would have probably been fun to be there for that. I would say that.
Yeah. Now listen, that's the fight story. Apparently, Neighbors and Lacey were kicked out of practice and had to cool off. So it seems as if they started it. I guess he pulled
Perkins
away.
Was asking about John Deere or something.
He pulled Perkins to the side. I love how like the question was asked, like, "What'd you say to Perkins?" Like, and like Kelly's gonna fucking answer that. I loved his answer. We talked about NIL and the John Deere deal, but at the end of the day, it was like, okay, learning time. Teaching moment. Let me talk to my biggest leader on defense while they're struggling right now, and not come down on him and like condone what just happened, and not kick him out of practice. Be like, hey, it's time for you to step up and be a leader of this team. Make them come together with you, right? Lead by example, and maybe we'll see something come out of this.
And it's nice that Brian Kelly can kind of be like, okay, offsetting penalties, guys. We're not, but not again, again. Like, there will be harsh repercussions if we do this again. I'm sure there's some people that had to run extra laps and do a lot of different things that maybe will help deter that. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, we're gonna get into the love fest of the offense here in just a second, and it's just like, I don't know. I'm excited. It feels like we have a lot of athletes and a lot of, like, just thinking about that, like, how many people you named off, like, oh, thank God this dude didn't get hurt. Thank God this dude. It used to be like, Devin White is off limits. Anyone else you can take.
Yeah.
And we're slowly already creeping into that, where it's like, we got a lot of first round guys on the scattered across this field.
Absolutely. And on the defensive side too, right? And like that's the big thing. I mean, Perkins and Mason Smith, I mean, Wingo's a returning all SEC player, preseason All-American. You've got you've got talent everywhere. Obviously at the defensive backfield, we're going to talk more about that on the next episode when we get into defense, but those guys are talented. I mean, like that depth chart, I mean, it might be inexperienced for LSU, but those guys are talented. I was thinking about the safety. It was kind of funny. Like the fact that when Major Burns committed, we had his first phone call. Like
I literally thought about that earlier today. I was watching, it may have been Hunt Palmer, it may have been Moscona doing a defensive thing, and they mentioned Major Burns as like a key contributor. I was like, how far we've come when we were in the garage talking with this dude as he's picking up his brother from camp.
Yeah, and then he goes to Georgia, and we feel like it was all for nothing. And here we are, like 5 years later, and he's our starting safety on what could be a national championship team. It's just under Brian Kelly.
Yeah, what a weird.
He's got a neck brace.
Yeah, what a weird run. Is that it? Do we need to tidy anything else up, or can we talk about how we're going to be the most prolific offense in LSU history?
Yeah, I think it's time to dig into the offense. So we're going to split up the segments. Offense today, defense is going to be next week at some point. By all accounts, the offense has been absolutely taking it to the defense. And not just wide receivers versus DBs on one-on-one drills. We're talking about offensive line bullying what is supposed to be the best defensive tackle tandem in the nation returning.
And just to preface that, I think this is the second time in our lifetimes that this early in camp, all we can hear about is how the offense is way ahead. It's always been, well, guys, the defense is, they know what they're. It's always like this excuse of why the defense is ahead in these like first couple weeks. And I mean, obviously there is some cause for concern a little bit on the defensive side, but like it's really nice to know that it's like, hey, man, like if our offense looks really good against this defense, we're going to look good against most people.
Exactly. I think Moscona made this point as well, where he was talking about, when you first see this and you hear these reports about how dominant the offensive line is right now, your immediate instinct is, oh, wow, or our defense sucks. But we already have the tangible evidence to know that they don't, right? These are very good defensive linemen that our offensive line right now is just straight up beating. And it's too deep it's like depth worth of dominance as well. Like Zalance Hurd is bullying people. Like by all accounts, again, everybody has reported Bordelon is developing.
Martinez has been getting a lot of love.
Mason Lunsford. Yeah. I mean, you've got probably like 9 guys that you're comfortable with, maybe even 10 on the offensive line that if anyone goes down, like you're going to be okay. Again, we have not had this type of conversation probably since we were like 16 years old. Talking about like Herman Johnson and Lyle Hitt and Saron Black. I mean, like there was a period where like we had 5 guys that were
Herman
all just
Johnson,
very solid. Yeah.
Bill Blackwell,
Herman Johnson,
and then Big Baby. And then after that,
the biggest baby ever born also in Louisiana.
If you think about it, if you're reminded. But after that, it was just like the occasional like stud tackle or guard. Like it wasn't ever just like 5 across the board of just like solid animals.
Or the highly rated recruit that blew up in the some All-American game and then comes in. It's like dude doesn't find the field.
Yeah, exactly. So now we have guys that are proven, and I mean having bookends with Campbell and Emory Jones. Will Campbell and Emory Jones are just absolutely program changers for what they were able to do their freshman year to hold down.
And the crazy thing is one of them's about to have to move positions probably.
Possibly so. But I mean, that dude, Emory Jones, is so versatile. You could put him at defensive tackle and he'd start. Like he is so athletic for being a big man. He's gonna be on the field in some form or fashion. The issue with the tackle position, it's not really an issue, but Hurd, you're not going to be able to keep him off the starting 5. I just don't see how that's possible. And I don't anticipate that happens like by week 1, but by mid-season, by week 3 or 4, like he's going to be rotating in enough where he's gonna be a pancake machine. Like, we're gonna run the ball effectively when Hurd gets his chances with that second team or whatever the case may be, and they're not going to be able to not run off the edge with Lance Hurd. They're not going to be able to sack the quarterback on Hurd. He's going to have to get some time with the ones.
Yeah, it's not that long ago that we were talking about a freshman offensive tackle that came in and like week 1 looked like he belonged on an SEC field, and I feel like we're following that up like next year with his own teammate with Hurd. It's like looking at the dude walking into the fucking ops building looks like he belongs. Not only like he's just a guy that it's just going to be impossible to keep off the field.
He's old boy. He's Mr. Pancake, but 6'7". You know, like he's that guy. And so
Pancake.
Yeah, dude, it was very nice for us to be able to get both of those back-to-back seasons, like back-to-back recruiting classes. The two Neville guys with Will Campbell and Lance Hurd is just tremendous. Now, Emory Jones is a stud. And he's going to be on the field somewhere, whether it's tackle or guard. You're going to have to keep that man on the field. You know, you look at the guard position with Dellinger and Miles Frazier, two very experienced individuals now, big bodies that know the system, solid guards. But you also, again, have a starter from Maryland and Mason Lunsford that has transferred in. Kimo Makanolu is another guy that's getting a lot of play right now. Bo Bordelon is tearing it up right now. He's 6'6", 310. I mean, the kid is blowing up in front of our eyes. His younger brother is committed, I think, for the 25 class out of Newman again. So offensive line always for Brian Kelly with the tight ends has been an emphasis in his programs. He's built at the line of scrimmage, and he doesn't just say that. I mean, every coach in America knows it, and they preach that. He actually develops it and emphasizes it with his foundation when he develops a program. And the first thing he did was identified the weakness. Hey, we've got fucking Cole Taylor and a bunch of fat asses on offensive line and tight end. Like, we're going to have to do some shit here. 1 year later, it's our deepest room is tight end and O-line, and they're all good, and they're all 2 to 3 deep at every position. And in one season, in 1 year. I love how they're developing DJ Chester to be the center of the future. Like, that's a dude that, you know, Auburn had slated to be their left tackle, and here we are, you know, making him the future center. That just shows you, like, they have eyes for talent. They know, you know, how to fill those voids and keep it consistent, where you don't have a weakness at any of the 5 spots for the next few years. And that's in 1 year of development. So
we're going back at least a decade, probably longer, where anyone in the right mind would have felt more confident in the offensive line going into a season than LSU is right now.
Yeah,
it's
and
one of those things that's like we always forever we're like, well, we got to stay healthy. Like, if we stay healthy on the line, it's going to be okay. And it's like, look, man, obviously injuries happen, not wishing injuries, but it's like finally LSU's in a spot where an injury is not going to completely ruin the entire line and the entire show we got.
Obviously, you know, the one that's the most valuable that if he were to go down is Will Campbell, is somebody that has that staple at left tackle. But then, you know, worst case scenario, if that happens, you kick Emory left and you put Hurd at right. I mean, like, you're set. Like, you're going to be okay. But that's the continuity that we have right now at that position, and that's what it takes to win in the SEC. You have to protect the football, you have to run the football, and you have to bully people. And we are loading up for that, and it's evident based on practice reports. I know it's only 5 days in, but Charles Turner is looking like a dude that's actually coming around and not only snapping the football with comfort, and that's something that we didn't even know we had last season going into week 1, but he is a leader on that offensive line. Like, of all guys, they look to, you know, goofball Charles Turner as a guy that's really the staple of that O-line, according to the rest of the team. And that was funny. Like, that was something Mason Smith said. He's like, you know, a lot of people don't give Charles Turner credit, but like, what y'all don't know is that dude like when he says something, like people listen. I guess because he's so much older, and the rest of the crew around them are young cats. But that's good to have in the middle of that offensive line, and apparently he's holding his own against Wingo and Smith in practice. So really good to see that from the O-line. Again, running through from left to right. Will Campbell returning all SEC left tackle, all freshman SEC. Dellinger is on that left side, I believe, for right now. I'm sure it's going to be interchangeable, but the other guard is Frazier, and then Emory Jones has been obviously holding down the fort at right tackle. Charles Turner at center. They are rotating Martinez at center. They're developing DJ Chester at center as well. But, the next man up on any position outside of center is going to be Lance Hurd. He's already a guy that they have identified as this is not going to be easy to keep him off the field. So, Brian Kelly made a statement that was kind of telling in his first press conference, or maybe it was the second one after one of the practices, where he said, on all positions, but even on the offensive line, there are guys that had to step up last season out of necessity, and they held their own and they did tremendous for us. But, it's a competition, and, he made it very clear. And he was talking about Lance Hurd when he said these comments, that there's some young guys that have the potential to unseat returning starters. Like that's essentially what he said. And that for the first 5 or 6 practices, we're going to allow the returning starters to get the first reps and prove themselves and let them know like they're still here and they've gotten better. But if they can't do that, you're going to see some fresh faces in that lineup if they have to do that. So that is nice to hear from a standpoint of, it doesn't matter at this point what happened last season. All the positions are up for grabs. We can go into job security at some point in this conversation, because I think they're, obviously Emory Jones and Will Campbell, they're going to have a spot. But other than that, you gotta put the best 5 out there. The best 5 that are going to move the football against Alabama, Florida State, and Georgia is the 5 that you need to play with from week 1.
Yeah, and I mean you have the luxury and the opportunity to rotate a lot of these guys in and keep them fresh throughout the games, throughout the seasons.
Let's really not forget. I mean, I know you briefly mentioned Lunsford, 6'7", 300 pounds. He played 1,670 snaps in his 4 years at Maryland.
Yeah,
at both guard positions. So we're throughout the season, someone's gonna get nicked during a game. Like, again, back to the depth, someone like that, I think he's going to be hungry. He's kind of learning his way and figuring it out. And God forbid something happens. It's awesome.
He's another guy,
massive people like that.
Another guy that's getting great reviews coming out of camp, like not specific to him, but it gives me a little pause, a little worry that it feels like every transfer is like far exceeding expectations. And, the linebacker is going to be the next Devin White, best linebacker we've ever had. And it's just like, it does worry me a little bit that we're like, everyone's incredible.
Yeah. And that's what happens when you have a team like this coming back and expectations are high. And so obviously everything is kind of highlighted. And we'll see. But I do think that's the strongest part of our team is our offensive line. And that's a really, really comforting thing to say going into a football season. Because if all else fails, you can move the football and you can protect the quarterback.
I don't know if this is where we want to go, but I mean, yeah, we got 17 fucking running backs. Like, hopefully one of them can figure out how to run behind that line. Like, you have to assume at least one guy is going to be able to get it done back there.
Yeah, and let's talk tight ends first, and let's transition into running backs because it's a lot easier to discover or to call who's going to be on the field at tight end. So obviously Mason Taylor is the staple of this room. He is going to be a guy we see at least for the next 2 seasons be the #1 tight end. But we added plenty of depth. And apparently this is the most polished outside of the offensive line, the most polished unit on the field, offense and defense aside, according to the people that have been watching practice when it comes to the incoming freshmen. And Mac Markway, he's been running with the twos. He's kind of been that guy for the first 5 or 6 practices, has been the freshman tight end out of Missouri, 6'4", 250, solid as a rock, but also is very athletic and can catch the football. Essentially, he's just like Mason Taylor. Like those two are very similar. He might be a little stronger when it comes to blocking, although I think Mason Taylor, I'm sure, has turned a corner there, and he's just the all-around dude. So Markway is definitely a guy that's getting a lot of play. Pimpton, 6'6", 240, apparently has been mossing people on the sideline and
Pimpton
making
ain't easy.
Pimpton ain't easy to cover at all. You're going to see him in the game contributing at some point this season, and that's out of the mouth of Mason Taylor. I mean, this is a guy that says, he's going to be able to help us this year at some point.
He feels to me, and obviously not putting the Harold Perkins, ascension to greatness on this dude, but he feels like a guy to me that's going to get a little bit of the Harold Perkins treatment, where it's like we got some special packages that this dude's going to be able to play in some spots, maybe throw him some fades, and he's just going to kind of gradually kind of get more opportunities. But it's like right now, it's like, yeah, we got a couple sets for this dude because he's such a matchup problem.
Yeah, so those are like your 3 playmakers at tight end. The 3 guys that you could see really, Pimpton and Taylor when it comes to great catching ability. Markway is also involved in that. When you get below that, you look at strictly blocking tight ends, and that's when you brought in a Connor Gilbreth, the guy out of University Prep High School out in California from Butte College. Is that what? Butte College.
Booty.
This is a 6'5", 270-pound inline blocking tight end, somebody that you need depth there with. We didn't have that convenience last year. I mean, I think we had
Nick Storrs, didn't we?
We had a pitcher. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, like let's travel back in time 2 years. Like, no disrespect, but we're sitting here with like Jack Mashburn, Cole Taylor, and the baseball dude Nick Storrs, to like fast forward 11 months, 13 months, whatever. I don't even know the number. And to like look at where we have now is it's just like the offensive line. It's like kind of unbelievable that you could turn it over that quickly.
Yeah.
He was actually a tackle, I think, out of high school. Looking him up.
Gilbreth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that makes sense, but that is diversity in the tight end room. Like you have both. You have your pass catching dominant, like wide receiver type guy with Pimpton and McGowan, right? So like those are 2 guys in their own class, where it's like a Mike Evans style tight end. You've got obviously Mason Taylor, who's your starter, who's all around blocking in pass catching, kind of like a poor man's Brock Bowers, I guess you could say. I mean, like, just to be clear, Brock Bowers is probably the top 5 best overall player in the nation of any position. So like that's high regard of comparisons there, but that's what Taylor brings to the game. It's just an all-around great tight end. Markway is a great addition as a similar type. And then you've got an inline blocker with Gilbreth. So depth and talent and many different styles of the game here at tight end. So very excited to see that. Very excited to see, the development of Mason Taylor in general. I mean, like we don't forget this, but like we have all this talent coming in this freshman class, and then the transfer. Taylor's a sophomore. I mean, like this guy is still going to be here for some time, and like we're going to see him get better. We've only seen the beginning of Mason Taylor's development as a tight end. I think we're going to use him a lot, but I don't know, man. Like there's so much talent on this field. Like you can only get the ball to one guy, and I think that's a decent transition into what we have, the problem that we're going to have to figure out with running back.
Well, and just, to the end tight end, it also, we talked about it a little bit last week, but it's exciting too, knowing that Mike Denbrock is a kind of a tight end involved offensive play caller.
Yeah, exactly. It's very tight end oriented. It's run game driven that sets up the passing game. But if you have a quarterback like Jaden Daniels who can do both within that offense, I mean, it just opens the doors for a lot of opportunity.
Sign me up to have Notre Dame's tight end run of the last decade.
I got a direct message here in the chat from Kyle Messeling. Mike, you going to be in Austin for the Florida State game?
Hell yeah, brother.
Probably. I don't anticipate making a last minute trip out, so I'll be hanging around the hot city. Hopefully, there's no grass fires my direction anytime soon.
What
and I
about
can
puddles of
actually
water
sleep
with girls?
Barton Springs, lot of nudes, I was very surprised by that. I had no idea that Barton Springs pool allowed titties, and it was certainly a surprise. Certainly a surprise.
I like
Let's
the
go to
fact
running
that you
backs.
tried to,
Pleasantly
like,
surprised.
you like walked around the perimeter seeing if there was pool rules.
Well, there was like 75 lifeguards there, just like blowing whistles left and right
Yeah, I
about people
bet.
that do
Wow.
backflip
I
off
bet.
the
Imagine getting
rocks.
paid to sit in the sun and look at titties all day.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do backflips off the rocks with a diving board, but hell, man, you can walk around with a set of D's. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think I think running backs is the perfect place to go here because I don't know. It has to be. It's the biggest question mark on the team. There's a ton of options, a ton of returning with Williams and Emery, but I don't know. I don't know what we're going to see at the running backs.
We have 8 scholarship running backs.
And they're all worthy of carries.
They're all in the same, like,
and
they're within.
That's the thing, man, is like none of them, and maybe we're wrong. Maybe we just don't know yet. And middle of the season, we're just like, God, do y'all remember when like we had no idea that like Logan Diggs was going to be the fucking dog? Like
Yeah.
we just don't know. We don't know what we're going to get out of this crew, but they're all basically equal, with the exception, obviously, of the 2 freshmen who are just inexperienced with game time. I think everybody else has really good, game experience. I guess aside from Trey Bradford, he really hasn't gotten settled into a program long enough to have carries in real games. But, you've got we'll start at the bottom with 2 very talented freshmen. Trey Holly, the 5'7", 192-pound freshman of Union Parish High School, set the state rushing yard record. He's just a phenom as far as it comes to gobbling up yardage. Little guy, everybody is automatically going to compare him to Clyde.
Tried on Holloway
or Clyde, Edwards Heller.
Hello.
I don't know if you're going to see a lot of him aside from maybe as a kick return position or in some serious scrub moments. And then also with Caleb Jackson, apparently one of the fastest guys on the team there at 6 foot 225. I mean, just a freak out of Liberty out there near Baton Rouge. So I believe that Caleb Jackson has a bright future. I could see him developing into like that Charles Scott type big downhill fast running back that you just didn't know had that kind of speed.
You're afforded the opportunity to redshirt these guys too, and it's like, yeah, they may transfer out and go somewhere else, but it's like you have the ability to kind of even hold these dudes back and get them ready.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so I think a couple of those guys were getting some special teams reps, I'm sure too.
Yeah,
they probably don't have a choice, but
well, and that's the thing about, I don't want to go too deep into special teams. I doubt we'll have a full segment on that, but if you look at special teams, not only were we piss poorly coached by Brian Polian last season, I don't know, 70% of the special teams roster was made up of walk-ons. And, you're going to look at this roster and you're going to have a Caleb Jackson out there on special teams. Yeah, you're going to have, Ryan Yates, the safety. I mean, like there's going to be
Toviano,
some of those tight ends that we
the
just
Weeks
talked
brothers, Mac Markway. Like you're gonna see studs on punt return that are blocking for Aaron Anderson. Like they're gonna be playing at some point. They're not gonna start on a position, and that's what depth is all about. And that's the name of the game. And that's for people that are paid way more than us to figure out how to manage that type of roster and expectations and keep people happy. But when it comes to the running backs, that's a different problem altogether. And I don't anticipate Caleb Jackson or Trey Holly really getting the opportunity to be the bell cow year one. You're really going to be looking at, and like Brian Kelly said, usually what happens in these situations is you're going to have the most experienced players kind of rise to the top when it's said and done. And the most experienced running backs on this roster right now is Josh Williams, Noah Cain, John Emery, and Logan Diggs. And
Well,
so
let's do it this way. Who do you think gets the most carries this year?
Josh Williams.
I think Josh Williams is the answer. Like, it may not, I don't know. I just feel like he's going to get his every game, whereas some of these other guys, Goodwin, you may see for 3 a game and then 10 one game, whereas Williams is getting 10 every game.
Now, Goodwin was hurt a little bit last year, right?
Yeah, most of the season.
In comparison, Josh Williams had 97 carries last year. Noah Cain had 76. Emery also had 76.
I could see
about a
Cain
20
being
carry
the
difference
for whatever reason. It depends.
I see him getting the second most carries again.
I think it's Diggs and Goodwin.
I think it's Diggs. I think it goes, yeah. And then I would
Williams,
say Emery
Diggs, Goodwin.
I think Emery is your third guy in situations or late in the game, or I think it goes Williams, Diggs, and then there's a little bit of a rotation with Emery, Cain, and Goodwin. And then
who's had a good week?
I don't know what Bradford brings. I don't know. Who knows?
There's our boy Lamar K. Stevens in the chat. It's been a while since we've seen our dude.
Been a while, Lamar, but he's got a good point. All the running backs are 80 to 84 overall ratings, but some are fast and some break tackles, right? Like none of them are like your 95. Like he stated there, Caleb Jackson is one of those usual LSU backs, but
we've all had our dynasty teams where we're like, oh man, what do I do here? I'm not winning a Heisman this year. I'm playing 90 dudes at this position.
Well, and I think it's one of those years where you're going to have so many different rotations and situations that you're going to have the most reliable pass blocker, and whoever knows the plays best be the guy that gets the most carries. Yep. Obviously, unless you get a guy like Trey Bradford or Armani Goodwin or John Emery, where every time they touch the ball, it's an exciting burst and you can't keep them off the field, right? And like that's going to change if they can do that. No one so far in practice has done that because they've just rotated so much. So there's really not a lot of answers there. Now, Caleb Jackson, right? You redshirt him and Trey Holly, and you can get Caden Durham in next season. Like, that's when you've got some 5-star like talent, those 95 rated players that you might have a bell cow, right? But this year, with the top heavy seniors and juniors that are all kind of the same level, it's going to be tough to figure out. But I think, what we just said, we're kind of on to it, where I can see it being Josh Williams and Diggs being the Mr. Reliables. And then you kind of drop down to the Noah Cains, Goodwins, and Emery.
We're not in a spot to say anyone on this board you can't keep off the field. And so I think you're right. I think 1,000% is going to come down to trust. Who do they trust to know the pass protections, to not fumble the ball, all those little things. It's like we'll live without the 80-yard runs.
Yeah, and I hate referencing the guy because it makes his head even bigger and balder. But, Moscona did make a lot of comparisons here to 2011, like we mentioned on the pod a couple weeks back, and also 2007. So 07 and 2011, two very good LSU football teams. Didn't really have a bell cow either, and they rotated a lot of guys. Now, obviously, 07, Jacob Hester got the bulk of the carries, but you also had Keelan Williams. You also had Charles Scott. You also had Richard Murphy. Like, you rotated those guys.
That kind of feels like a perfect example of like, we're going to put the dude we trust.
Yeah, exactly. And all last season, what did we say? Josh Goodwin really reminds me of Jacob Hester. Like, he reminds me of a guy that is just downhill. He finds the holes. He finds space. He's not going to be that flashy runner that breaks it for 100 yards off the line of scrimmage, but he is going to get you a first down. He's going to get the tough yardage. Like, that's what Jacob Hester did. And he was reliable and he's trustworthy. Josh Williams is the same type of back. Now, who's our Keelan Williams, right? Is it going to be John Emery? Is it going to be Logan Diggs, Mr. Reliable again? Some guy with really good experience from Notre Dame, a guy that knows the system, a guy that knows Brian Kelly well, and conversely, Brian Kelly knows him very well and trusts him. So is Noah Kane going to be our Charles Scott? We've seen this play out before in work, and then in 2011,
on Holiday, who's going to be that?
Holloway.
Stephen Ridley.
Yeah. And then you've got 2011 where you had the rotation with Spencer Ware and Michael Ford, who was backed up then by Alfred Blue. And then eventually Kenny Hilliard came on the scene. So, that's another rotation of 4 backs that all were remembered during a SEC championship run. So it can absolutely work. And then we're not even taking into account that the guy with the most touches running the football is probably your quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So what was it? 80 something was the
97 is what Josh Williams had, and Jaden Daniels last year had 186. Now, how many of those were scrambles compared to design runs, but still.
And look, this is a good problem to have. What I don't like about it is I love Frank Wilson, and I think he's a hell of a recruiter. But I remember there being times where I'm just like, dude, I don't know if Frank's got like a rhythm for this lineup right now. Like it felt as if like sometimes there was no rhyme or reason for putting different backs in at certain times, and they never got to catch a rhythm. It was just like, they'd get a series here, and the minute like you felt as if, hey, they're going to break one next series, it was a different rotation, and there was never that rhythm. That's what I
last year. There'd be 3rd and 7s, and you're like, okay, Josh Williams is in. They're throwing the ball, and then he carries the pile for 10 yards against Bama.
Nothing I love more than a 3rd and 10 run, the Chip Kelly special.
Special freshman year.
I'm sitting here chuckling, looking down memory lane of the 2011 stats and rushing stats, and you see guys like Ja'Cory Gore.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then Russell Shepard and Terrence McGee. So, like, there was a ton of, like, running guys on that team. Wow.
So my question was going to be, do we have anyone that rushes for more than 93 or whatever Williams carries were last year?
97. I think a running back will have 100 carries.
I don't. I think it's going to be way more distributed this season because, like, I don't think you have anyone that's so much better. I think they're all in like the same category as like good. Nobody's great and no one truly sucks. Like there's no one on that list of running backs that I'm just like, that dude's never touching the football. I can't point one of those guys out because even Trey Bradford looks like a freak. Have you seen how big he got? Like obviously he's here for a reason and he's putting in a lot of work. So they're all talented, and none of them I can point at and say, it's just not going to work out. The only exception to that is if, Goodwin is not truly back from injury, but everybody that reports from camp says he's a full go and he's full steam ahead. So we'll see.
Lamar in the chat, Les Miles would like this offense, wear the other teams out and bury them in the second half. It's like,
yeah.
I hope so. I'm just not sold on the fact that we're going to like be this like run first, like power run team. That's all.
No,
we can talk about it after we get done about, where the offense is going and everything. But I don't know. It's just weird. Like I feel like we're still the spread, like Jaden Daniels. I don't know.
We're going to be very well. And then Brian Kelly also talked about mixing up Aaron Anderson in the backfield, and that just tells you like, okay, so you have 8 running backs and you're already proactively thinking that one of your receivers is going to take reps in the backfield. So like, you're obviously not going into the season thinking like this is a downhill running football team. Like this is going to be a very multiple team that's going to utilize their playmakers however they need to. So if the running back position does not produce a playmaker, right? Like someone that, hey, we have to get the ball in this kid's hands no matter what. Like we don't have a Fournette. We don't have a guys, like that's, if we can get one of those guys to become that, sure, you'll see someone get, over 100 carries and rush for 1,000 yards, whatever. But I don't anticipate that with this crew right now. Next year, probably with Nussmeier at quarterback and the seniors leaving and having more talent and a condensed roster at running back. Sure, not this season.
Quarterbacks or wide receivers? Where are we going?
I think we can go receivers. I think we can end on quarterbacks as it's
The
pretty straightforward.
biggest battle, and leave it to the end.
Yeah. So receivers, from every report that we've heard, have been dominant so far in practice, and not only with their one-on-ones, but their blocking, their route running ability when it comes to full-on 11-on-11. They're tough. I mean, obviously, Neighbors and Lacey started some shit, and they're very confident right now. But that also makes me feel like, okay, Jaden Daniels is getting the football to these guys. Like, we are making plays on our defense, and we're pushing the ball right now, and we're spreading it out. According to reports, Brian Thomas was sidelined for a couple days with some hamstring soreness, so it gave the opportunity for Chris Hilton to take some first-team reps. Apparently, he is stacked right now at 6 foot 180 is what it says. He came into LSU, I believe, a beanpole, probably in the 160 range, if I had to guess. Just a true track running athlete, but has bulked up and he looks great. But by all means,
he's one of those dudes that if you tell me he's on the field a ton and catches a ton of balls, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. And then also, if you told me he's like, yeah, he's got talent, but he just can't really find his way onto the field except for garbage time, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Makes sense. Yeah, very deep.
Actually,
very deep at the receiver position. Brian Thomas,
typo, he's 190.
190, yeah, 6 foot 190. I mean, yeah, he's definitely bulked up, and he can fly, right? He's like a big God. I was just about to say his name and I forgot it. The kid that transferred to Nebraska, the Palmer. He's like
Gilbert.
Yeah, Gilbert is in Nebraska. That is true. But Trey Palmer, a guy that was just track speed, that had kind of shaky hands. That's what I see with like Chris Hilton. But apparently, he's turned the corner with size, and he's probably got better hands than Palmer.
Hadn't Hilton like dropped a few passes when he has had opportunities like last? Like, I feel like I remember him doing. I mean,
but he had a great spring. He had a really good spring where he caught a lot of good balls, and we'll see. But with that being said, Brian Thomas has that position locked down. Like, sure. Brian Thomas, as long as he's healthy, is going to be a freak there. Someone that we've seen starting since he was a freshman, and in a blink of an eye, he's a junior. 6'4", 205 out of Walker. Coming up in high school, he was regarded as one of the best players in the nation as a sophomore. Had some shaky Walker teams, and he flirted with Bama a little bit. It was down to Bama and LSU, and the kid comes in as a freshman, makes some plays. Obviously, last year as a sophomore, he did the exact same thing as his freshman year. I think you could see him breaking out. And if we're going to ask the question of who do you think has the most touchdowns, I think Brian Thomas is somebody that's in that category and would be a sneaky pick for the most touchdowns. I think he's going to be an end zone weapon. If you see him take a step from sophomore to junior year and progress, I think it's his reliability in the red zone, and he's going to be one of those threats that can get the deep ball, but can also work the back pylon and really moss some dudes.
Yeah, I mean, he feels like a guy that's going to be more of a household name in the SEC, like, for sure.
Yeah.
I could see him, taking one of those second, third team all SEC wide receivers, like having that good of a year, especially when teams have to be looking to stop Malik Neighbors. And, X and Y are locked up. Like, you got Neighbors and Brian Thomas, and then it's kind of a coin flip. I feel like, especially week one, seniority, Kyron Lacey's been getting a lot of those, but you mentioned him a few minutes ago. It's like, if you asked me, if you made me put money on it, I would say Aaron Anderson is that dude.
Well, yeah. And so, like you mentioned, you've got a guy similar to Aaron Anderson that's locked it down, and that's Malik Neighbors. And Brian Kelly made it very clear, in some of his press conferences, they were asked, are you going to do things differently with him? Are you going to feature him like y'all did in the bowl game? And his answer was very clear. When you're in the bowl game, you have less pressure, especially when you're playing in, he even made a joke about it, the freaking Cheez-It Bowl, whatever we played in. And you can do whatever you want and kind of throw everything out there. We're not going to do that as far as having him throw the football. But he did say you're going to see an evolution in his game, and he's going to be a featured player for LSU. So Malik Neighbors is by all means the securest spot on the wide receiver crew, followed by Brian Thomas, who is a freak of nature and is in a class of his own when it comes to that position ability. But a featured playmaker you have in Malik Neighbors. So then,
well, and Neighbors has also been your number one for 2 years. We just had to act like Booty was like the first round draft pick still.
Right. And because, and that's a great point, Booty was the last of that 3-year span or whatever it may be, that span of following the national championship with Ed, where it was all about, oh God, what 5-star do we have? And we can just hang our hat on this kid.
Yep.
Right. And then like Brian Kelly has slowly tried to change that, where like, it's not about one freaking player, guys. Like, it doesn't matter if he's not bought in, we're not going to win football games. And we saw that happen. We saw that we didn't give in to that. We didn't allow that type of attitude. And I'm not saying, I'm not trying to put out there that Booty individually had a negative attitude. I'm talking about the attitude of, well, I was a 5-star, and guess what? I could have transferred to Bama, but I decided to stay. It's like
everyone bow down. Yeah, you should be thanking me for staying type of thing, which like not saying he did, but yeah.
But it's bigger than that, right? Like it's bigger than just the Booties and the Eli Rickses and like whoever else that we got in that time period that was like the signee of that class. And so we were looking forward to the year where they carry us across the finish line. It's a team effort now. Like, it's not just Harold Perkins. It's not just Mason Smith. It's not just Jaden Daniels. It's not just Aaron Anderson or Malik Neighbors. Like, you've got guys everywhere that work as a unit right now. And that's a culture change. And I feel like the wide receiver room doesn't need to just have one guy. And we're able to see that with Brian Thomas, with Malik Neighbors stepping up last year, bailing Jaden Daniels out of a funk, right? Like, hey, after an awful start to the season for Malik Neighbors, fumbling the football on punt return multiple times, dropping passes, and then eventually it's like, no, we believe in this kid, and he's gonna come through, and he did. I mean, I forgot what game it was. It may have been the Florida game, or one of the games. It might have been Bama. Like, the game's on the line, and we're going for it on 4th down or 3rd and long, and there's Malik Neighbors making a beautiful catch, contested catches for a little guy, sure-handed, against Purdue, putting him in the backfield, running reverses and taking it for 50 yards, wiggling through the entire defense. Like, this is going to be a featured receiver for our offense. Now, you add in Aaron Anderson, who is the same type of player, but maybe even shiftier, right? Like a guy that's stockier, shiftier, that has great hands, that will be your punt returner, that has experience in it. Like, literally was a 5-star because of how productive he was as a return man, and a jack of all trades.
I know he obviously went to Bama, but God, does he look like Bama, the wide receivers that Bama has been snatching up for the last 5 years? Like, the dude just looks like a Jalen Waddle out there. Like, hey, I'm just gonna make this nickel corner absolutely look stupid, and I'm gone.
Yeah, and they say that he is one of the hardest workers on the team, and that was the most refreshing thing to hear, was that Brian Kelly said, and we'll get into Denver Harris next week, but like, all of these big name transfers that came in this offseason, and then the freshmen that come in, Brian Kelly makes it no secret. There's no bones about it. Like, you're going to have to prove yourself to play for me. Like, there is no, I am a 5-star talent and I killed it at Carr, or, I was a, freshman midseason All-American at A&M. Like, none of that matters if you set foot in this program anymore until you prove it, not only in practice on the field, but in the weight room with Flint, in the classroom with making sure you go to class on time. Like there's so much accountability built in to performing for Brian Kelly that the fact that he stated that about Aaron Anderson, that's like, hey, yeah, I started watching him first couple practices and I'm very excited for what I see. But what I love the most was that how Jake Flint stated, you know, his work ethic is phenomenal and that he doesn't skip a beat, doesn't skip a rep. He wants it. He wants to earn it. And so you're going to see him be rewarded for that. And Aaron Anderson is going to take a starting position on this offense. And it's not going to be taking away Brian Thomas or Malik Neighbors. So
and he's not a one and done guy.
Right. You got him coming back. Like that's a guy you want to build on. You don't want to just bench this kid and not play him. And then he comes fresh next season. Like you want him to be a returning featured player, just like Neighbors is this year.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, he just immediately, I'm sure he's going to, I'm trying to like temper expectations because I think this dude's going to be awesome for what we do. But yeah, I mean, it feels like he's just going to walk right into that Malik Neighbors role like next year. And it's like, yep, we got our featured one again. Like, let's put Shelton Sampson next to him.
Yeah, and Sampson's a freak, right? And we're about to get into him when we go down the list, but Kyron Lacy is a guy that's a solid leader. You know, he's that typical receiver that we have on the roster every year where you're just like, yeah, but the backup's better, right? It's like he's
I would love for him to be the guy. Would love for it.
He's like the Jure Jenkins. Yeah, it's like, but then at the end of the day, like those guys bail you out of big games. Yep. Is Kyron Lacy going to be that type of player? Or do we not even need to now venture down that road anymore with this type of roster that we've built, right? Where you don't have to, you know, sacrifice a year of development and play a guy like Jenkins instead of Malik Neighbors or Brian Thomas or whoever it might be. And I'm not dogging on Jure Jenkins. He played a beautiful role and he won several football games for us, right? But at the end of the day, Kyron Lacy had a lot of drops last year that were in pivotal moments. I mean, you go back and look at the A&M game, he's hungry and he goes in for games prior to that. And you're like, maybe we have something here. And then you give him an opportunity and he drops a couple easy first downs that really could have changed the game. If his hands can shore up, you know, obviously we saw it in the spring game, but so did, you know, the spring game is something that we've seen stars break through in the spring game and you never hear of them again. It could have been the Richard Murphy treatment for all we know, but his hands did look pretty damn good with some one-handed snags and he's pretty fast. It's just tough to think. He's a pretty big kid. He's
actually the biggest receiver we have weight-wise.
He's a good blocker, right? Like he's somebody that I feel like is tough. Like he was in the fight. He was in the scrum with Denver Harris and Malik Neighbors. So
he's
like
a perfect locker room guy. Like he's a leader in that wide receivers room. He's not gonna, you know, he's gonna tell it like it is type of thing. I love having him.
Yeah, and so that's the thing is how good is he to keep Aaron Anderson sidelined? How good is he to keep a freshman stud like Shelton Sampson from earning his stripes and developing? So we'll see.
He's also that dude who could end up being like everyone's favorite player because he's a special teams just a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
He's also from the University of Louisiana Lafayette too. I mean,
he's a transfer from UL.
UL Louisiana Lafayette.
But listen, he's another one of those guys that came in and bailed us out last season, right? Like we had a lot of dudes that we didn't expect to come in last year that like helped us. But we've turned the corner and as a program where I feel like some of those guys may not be like. Do we really feel like Greg Clayton is going to be our punt returner all season? No, but he bailed us out. Like he was a godsend last year, right? It was necessary. I don't know if Kyron Lacy, if it's fair to like group him in that type of category because like, he probably is better than that. Yeah. But he just off on paper, off the cuff, like he's that first guy that you look at. It's just like, man, this is stacked across the board. But Kyron Lacy's still in the lineup.
Yeah, how is he going to hold on for dear life for this position for sure?
I think it's going to be game plan. Like Aaron Anderson is going to be game plan. There's going to be specific plays more than that. Like he's not going to have 1,000-yard season, but all-purpose yards, he's going to do some damage.
There'll be packages for Anderson. Obviously, he's going to be the punt returner from everything that we've heard so far.
And how much of the offense are these guys going to be able to pick up too?
Exactly, and that's the thing is who's going to know the offense the best? Obviously, Lacey knows it the best right now out of that number 3 wide receiver position that we're going to have on the field. But with that being said, like I said with running backs, if you've got a guy that you can't keep off the field, like if every time we get a punt return and Aaron Anderson is just like a step away from taking it to the house, and then you hit him on a slant and he's doing the same thing, like by week 3 or 4, we're going to be game planning for whoever and be like, you know what, guys, like it's time to put Aaron in the 11, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, man, if you made me tell you today, I would say I think Kyron Lacey's role on this team is identical to what it was last year.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope I'm wrong. I'd love for him to be a stud.
If you look at him statistically, he has been Mr. Consistent. He's had 300 yards receiving in each year of college.
So after that, according to the reports, they've kept it based on seniority pretty much when it comes to the rotation behind them. Landon Ibieta, the Mandeville White Knight, has been getting some touches there and looking fine. Like I said, Chris Hilton's been running with the ones because of Brian Thomas having a little bit of a hamstring soreness. Shelton Sampson, the true freshman coming in. There's a slew of true freshmen.
Let's talk about the 3 freshmen. Let's go.
There's a handful of true freshmen who, in my opinion, out of all of them, according to practice reports, the most physically ready right now is Kyle Parker. Kyle Parker is back there with Aaron Anderson returning punts. So like very similar stature, very similar skill set, a very, very strong SEC physically ready guy, but short, right? Like he's stocky, but he's got hands like glue. He's running sick routes. Very much Malik Neighbors, Aaron Anderson, Kyle Parker, like they're their own little kind of type of engine that could, I guess you could say. But then you've got guys like Shelton Sampson, 6'4", 190,
Ruben Randall type.
Ruben Randall, Brandon LaFell, like that, like stars in the making at that Y position that's going to be really solid, that you're going to see get some catches. But next season, their sophomore year, redshirt freshman year, alongside Aaron Anderson and Kyle Parker, like that's
Garrett Nussmeier.
That's going to be fun to watch, and you're gonna have to develop those kids. And then you've got the speedster Jalen Brown, who obviously they put out some videos of his catches where they were stating you thought this was just a track kid, and he's tightrope in the sideline making some over the head catches. And then Kai Prian, who is another one of those bootlegger boys, 7-on-7 demon, somebody that's coming in out of St. James. And I know I've said this a million times over the years on the podcast. If you have a kid from the river, if you have a St. James kid, if you have an East St. John kid, if you have a Lutcher kid, like West St. John, it does not matter
North St. John
what their record is or what their status is on the on-3 rankings. That kid is going to make plays for you at some point in his career, and you're going to be like, damn, Kai Pran's a dude. It's going to happen. Now, is it going to happen this year?
Just give him one of the scholarships, and eventually it's going to work out.
It will work out. So obviously we missed on I think it was either his teammate or maybe he was at East St. John, was Shaz Preston the year before, who was the top receiver in the state with Kendrick Law, with Aaron Anderson, that all went to Bama. So reports out of Bama camp are not too pretty, by the way.
Not anymore. They're not going to Bama anymore.
I've been sneaking over to their side of the talk, and they're not happy in Tuscaloosa right now with practice. Kind of funny to watch that blow up. And the reason I say that was some of the reports was that Shaz Preston fumbled twice, on a couple of his catches, and so they took him out. They're not able to complete passes. They're throwing ducks. They're hitting the ground. It's not fun, but it's funny to see, like, the only guy so far from that wide receiver crew that bailed on Louisiana is Kendrick Law, who was a North Louisiana kid that was an athlete that was not really slated to be the dude. Good for him, whatever. but we got a guy in Aaron Anderson, and we've got some serious depth, and we're building, and we're only getting started here.
Yeah, I mean, dude, this is just an embarrassing collection of talent. Like 3, 4, 5 of these dudes are gonna be good enough. You know, it's like we'll figure it out.
So yeah, I think those are your top 4 guys, right?
The only name left off this list that I couldn't fit it was Javin Nicholas from St. Augustine.
Oh, well, we have to talk about Javin Nicholas.
And bring him up. What's his 247 profile?
No, that's the one. We got him like as like a preferred walk-on last year, and he ended up playing as a freshman last year in certain situations.
Yeah, very similar to Greg Clayton, right? Like a guy that
yeah, but he's a freshman. Clayton's on his way out. This guy's on his way in. But yes, the same role
right,
of
like a guy that
could be a sure-handed guy, whatever.
Right. We have guys on this roster that want to be here, that have busted their ass, that have found a spot and are sure-handed, and they make plays. Now, that helped us last year. Moving forward, you know, it's like those guys are good locker room guys. Those guys are good depth guys, good sideline guys, good backup special teams guys. You know, like, hey, fuck, Aaron fumbled twice. Like,
Purdue.
Let's go ahead and throw Clayton back out there or Nichols back out there, because guess what? They can't do anything else, but they're going to fair catch and they're going to make the catch. And if we ever get to that point, we have those type of I'll do whatever it takes to be on this team type of guys. And that's great to have. So yeah, the wide receiver room looks great, and they're performing at a high level during practice right now. And the reason they're performing at a high level is not only their ability, but obviously the quarterbacks are putting the ball in a good position for this team, and for the offense to work the defense so far. And obviously that's led by Jaden Daniels. So the quarterbacks, there's a two-headed monster there. We have to be able to say that we are comfortable. And I love Nussmeier for this. The fact that you can go anywhere else and play right now. And you knew that coming back meant I'm sitting behind Jaden Daniels, and I'm going to be the guy for this next crop of development on this team. And he is bought into that, and he loves it. And he knew, you know what, I'm better than old boy, right? I'm better. I've already forgot his name. Ole Miss.
Walker Howard.
I'm better than Walker Howard. You know, I am going to win this job. I'm staying put. And he stuck it out, and he is very good. We saw how talented Nussmeier is. I'm not afraid at all if Jaden goes down, if we're going to be in good hands, right? Do I think it eliminates a very, very potent aspect of our offense if Jaden leaves? Yes, absolutely. Jaden Daniels is your number one, and I want him to remain your number one. There's no question there. But the comfort level of having Garrett Nussmeier on this roster and his development and his leadership and his attitude, like, it is the perfect backup quarterback that you could have for this type of run that we could potentially be on this season. And it creates more opportunities for Jaden to let it loose, like play free, and know that, guess what, worst case scenario, if you have to sit out half a game, like the show's going to go on, and you're going to get your spot. It's going to be fine. But like the whole weight of the world is not on your shoulders, Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I hope, as long as Jaden Daniels is, you know, pushing the ball, more comfortable in the offense, like, I agree, like, he's your guy. He adds such a dynamic element with his legs. I mean, shit, had twice the carries that our lead running back had last year. Shout out Grant the intern. But yeah, I mean, Nussmeier's a guy that, if we rolled him out, you know, let's say Jaden Daniels did go to the draft, I think we'd all be pretty confident and be like, yeah, I'm a little worried, you know, he might put us in some bad spots with some throws, but like, we would still be hype training this thing towards the SEC championship.
Correct. And listen, the success of this football team goes as far as Jaden Daniels is development. If Jaden Daniels is now the full potential college quarterback that he could be, you know, you look at his Arizona State days, he came in and tore it up as a freshman. His sophomore season, I believe, was the COVID year. And then he comes back his next season after that, and I believe he has a depleted roster. His coaches, are in and out, and I believe he was a little hobbled. Then he comes to LSU, right, and he earns the starting position, earned it. And at first, it was a little rough go. It was, damn, this dude can fly, but he's not throwing the football, right? And he eventually started throwing and started letting it loose. Wasn't consistent at all times, had some bonehead decisions here and there, but at the end of the day was truly our offensive identity by the end of the season was Jaden Daniels. He beat Bama. He stepped up and beat Alabama. And that's something that not a lot of quarterbacks in the past 15 years have been able to say. So the fact that he was able to do that and make plays like he did against that team was phenomenal. It was a program-changing game led by Jaden Daniels. Now, he had a shitty game against Arkansas and a shitty game against A&M. He was hobbled. But guess what? He came out against Georgia on a bum ankle, couldn't run the football, and we saw what his arm could do, sitting in the pocket and letting it rip, building that confidence.
That's kind of the crazy thing of this whole deal is like you don't need Jaden Daniels to do more. Like less of the offense is going to be put on his shoulders this year, as weird as that sounds, because we're not going to ask him to run for his life out of necessity for the first 6 weeks of the season or have to just take off to try to get first downs. Like I feel as comfortable with Jaden Daniels as I do with our offensive line and our wide receivers. Like these dudes will be able to hold their own against any team they play. He just has to quarterback. He has to facilitate, not make dumb mistakes.
There was one point in the immediate offseason where the delusional brain starts taking over and you're just like, yeah, Jaden should go and we should start fresh with Howard and Nussmeier. Like, that is, I'm in such a 180 take right now, like weeks away from Florida State. Like, I'm so happy we have Jaden Daniels starting for us. I feel like he has gotten bigger. He's gotten stronger. He's a demon with his legs, man. Like, he's fast as hell, and that's not changing no matter, if he gains 10 pounds or not. Like, the dude can fly. If he can step up and connect with these receivers, which you saw him do last year, you saw it. You saw the flashes, and he's worked with them all off season. He's, one of the top 5 odds in the Heisman race going into the season. Like, Jaden Daniels, people are aware of his potential. Can he capitalize on it? If he does, this is a championship football team. Because, like you said, though, Brett, it's not about Jaden Daniels. Like, if he can progress into throwing the football better and improve that passing game, his running game is going to be with the likes of Lamar Jackson, where like there's not going to be people in the box to stop it. So you're always going to have lanes to go as a worst case scenario. Your worst case scenario, if Jaden Daniels can throw the football, means, hey, they got him locked up in coverage, Jaden for 25. Like that's the game.
Oh, you're going to play man? You're going to play man with safeties over the top with everyone's back turned? Okay, well, that's a first down.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know the exact quote, and I don't even really care about Jaden Daniels saying he wanted to help, mentor and bring along the younger quarterbacks in the program, like whatever. He wants to be here. Like this dude really wants to be the LSU quarterback. He wants to be that next dude that followed in Burrow's footsteps and goes to the Heisman and brings his team to the playoffs. Like I'm really happy we had him. I mean, you and I, we were laying in the intern's bed getting ready to do a podcast when it came out that he was returning. And literally we were like, yeah, what does that mean for Walker Howard?
Yeah.
And like you said, like sitting here tonight, it's complete opposite. Like I'm so happy that this dude came back. He's going to be the guy running the show this year. And it just like, look, man, I've been riding the Nuss bus. I've been the driver of the Nuss bus. Feels like since Miles Brennan was in diapers. But I'm so happy. I'm very happy that we get to like once again kind of like ease this dude in, and it's almost like it's almost like football programs from years before, or even like high school. It's like, well, you don't become the starter till you're a senior. Like we have a senior, and it's like then it's your show, and obviously Nussmeier's going to have an extra year on that. But it's like you're going to be so fucking ready to actually like do it. It's almost going to be like boring when you get the opportunity.
Well, I mean, you're looking at a situation where you could have a freaking, Lamar Jackson type quarterback win you a championship, and then you got 2 years of Stetson Bennett that's just going to like come out of nowhere and be like, holy shit, this dude's really freaking good, and he's going to lead this offense with Garrett Nussmeier back-to-back years. Like, it's crazy.
All of that said, I am not above starting to scream for Nuss Bus if Daniels doesn't look good. Like I just like let's make that known. I don't want anyone clipping like, oh, look at the suck fest. You already turned on him. No, no, no. I will turn. Like
the second Jaden throws
that.
an interception, the stadium is going to be all aboard the Nuss Bus again. Unfortunately, that's the way it's going to be.
Would get in there and fire one right to him, and then be like, "Where's Colin Hurley?"
Just punt it. Yeah, he's just going to be punting the football down the field.
I want Finley back.
We're very comfortable with our two quarterbacks. Very happy with the depth there. Two very solid SEC experienced quarterbacks. Haven't been able to say that for a very long time. So
well, and I think, it may have been 2 weeks ago or so, but we kind of tickled the topic of like, you can also get more aggressive with Jaden Daniels running the ball.
Yeah.
That Nussmeier is a guy that like, obviously you're not out there trying to get your guy hurt, but you're also not bubble wrapping him all season.
Yeah, we're gonna see Jaden's skill set to the highest regard. Yeah. This is his bag year, right? He's up for the Heisman. He's a guy that's got a championship team returning to him. He's a leader. He's one of the older guys in the locker room now. It's his final season. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like this is his year, right?
5 stars to the left of me, 5 stars in front of me.
That's right. And he's gonna he knows now this is not Arizona State. Like I can throw the football and these guys are going to score touchdowns if there's any grass in front of them. It's not just first downs. Like we're scoring. And he wants to win. He wants to win a national championship. That's what he said. Like, I want to be part of history. I want to win a national championship. And in order for him to do that, he needs to see this offense for what it is and spread it out. And if he needs to keep it and tuck it and run, he's damn good at doing that. And he's going to get his money for that too. So I'm excited about it. I think it's only going to help us in recruiting as well. Your teams are always only as good as your quarterbacks. And Brian Kelly's well aware of that. We have a solid dog in Garrett Nussmeier that's going to be returning for at least another season. So
you can also sell that as like, we have another dude who would be playing in the SEC, but he is so confident in what we're doing in this building that he's willing to not play football again for another year when he's been itching. I mean, shit, what is he, a redshirt sophomore? So it's going to be mostly 3 seasons of him not playing like football when that's all he's done his entire life.
Yeah. So, and then you're going to have guys. I mean, you got Colin Hurley, you got Ricky Collins, but then you're all in for Bryce Underwood, the #1 player in the nation out of Michigan, out of Michigan up there. And he's going to look at this, and he's, similar skill set to Jaden Daniels when it comes to the dual threat running ability. Am I going to be successful in a Mike Denbrock offense? Yes, it looks like it based on Jaden Daniels. Oh, wait a minute. It looks like they can do multiple different styles with their quarterbacks. Look at Garrett Nussmeier. Let me go there and start as a redshirt freshman, right? So,
look, we got a bunch of people in the chat. I think we're winding down the season preview, but if y'all have any questions or topics you want us to pop up, just fire them up in the chat, and we'll go through a couple.
One thing I was going to say about Jaden Daniels.
One thing.
I don't know why.
So like statistically, where's his game log? He last year's season passing yards, total passing yards was ranked 5th all time. Was ranked 5th all time in passing yards last year for LSU at 2,900, behind Zach Mettenberger,
watch you go,
Rohan Davey, and Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
I didn't hear a single thing. I was trying to keep the song.
I was hearing it, yeah, and then I got so far. I didn't want to get too loud in the mic during the chorus.
So the segue is into the over-unders of the numbers is where I was going with this.
Is it game time? We're at an hour and a half into this episode. Is it game time?
Who?
Game? No. I was saying this is the segue into the over-unders of the offensive stats.
Yeah, we thought that was the game.
We can do that. We've got one more ad read before
there is no game. That's the game.
Attention all sun seekers and garage gurus. Introducing the Slidell Solar Garage, where your car gets a tan while you save the planet. Say goodbye to the gloomy garage and hello to the hottest parking spot in town. It's so sunny, even your car will need sunscreen. Brett, take it away. Finish that one. That's solar.
Drive in, charge up, and watch your ride transform into the ultimate solar cruiser. Slide into savings and shine on Slidell. I don't even know the name. Slidell Solar Garage. Huge fans of the program. Tell them the Moscona Special sent you.
Hudson Roofing. Hudco.
Hudson Roofing.
Hudson News. Are you in an airport? Do you need a bag of M&Ms?
All right, over-unders.
Yeah, so what I was saying is Jaden Daniels had 2,900 yards passing last year. That ranks 5th all-time on LSU's single-season list. So far. All right, I'm leaving.
I'm leaving. You're gonna leave because you can't get that.
No, I'm just trying to. That's the point of what I'm trying to say of the over/under. So it's crazy. It's crazy to think that Jaden Daniels 5th all time in the single season passing yards in LSU history from last year.
Who's the over/under? Anthony Jennings.
No, it's Joe Burrow, Rohan Davey, Jamarcus Russell, and Zach Mettenberger are the ones in front of him. So the fact that he's even that close, he sucks 50 yards away from Zach Mettenberger from breaking or whatever.
Yeah, he's going to have a good year. I'm banking on Jaden Daniels this year.
So I was going to put the over/under at 3,200, which would put him at 3rd all time, right behind Rohan Davey.
I'll go under.
Over/under.
That's a lot.
What did he have last year?
29.
He had 2,900 last year.
And what'd you say? 32?
3,200.
3,200.5.
I'm gonna go over.
Yeah, I mean over sounds fun, but I'll go under. We're a power running team, boys.
So yeah, like I said, if he does go over, then he's with Joe Burrow and Rohan Davey, which is just crazy to think that he would be in that category.
Shout out Rohan, like in the day before the days of everyone just like throwing it 1,000 times. Our boy Rohan's out there just chunking it.
Well, he had the Blitnikoff winner. He had Josh Reed.
Yeah.
So let's do his rushing stats. So last year he had 186 carries for 885 yards.
So many.
I would put the over under at 900. I mean, it has to be somewhere in that
under.
Boat.
I'll go under on both, which sounds shitty.
I've got over on passing, under on rushing. I think he's going to
win the Heisman. Yeah, I mean, dude, it's like thinking back about last year, it's like how many yards were like left on the table, like how many booty drops and like how many bullshit like he had to run for his life. Like thinking now of him just like tossing the ball 3 yards or even just like touching it forward to Anderson for 36 yards and stuff like that in chunks. You can find yourself to the over, but I feel like everyone's
he's got to take that next step. If he takes the next step, he's got it. But if it's the same Jaden Daniels we saw last year, where he's a little timid and he's running the whole time,
can't be having 40 yards against Arkansas,
right?
Well, if he doesn't run for 900, then he's going to pass for over 32.
That's my point. I've got the under rushing.
That's fair. I'll take the under in both because why not?
So
I told you,
Josh,
I like plus signs. I'm taking unders. It's a new man this year, boys. I'm telling you.
So Garrett does. No, I'm just kidding. Well, Garrett had 800 yards. Is he over under that number?
He had 800.
Yeah, 800 year. Yeah.
Let's not do that. Let's not do that.
I know. I'm just kidding. That would be bad. Josh Williams. I'm going to go with over or under 600 yards.
Over. I think he's the guy who's going to be on the field the majority of the time.
And he had 532 last year.
I'm going to go under. I think Diggs is going to gobble up a lot of those yards.
All right.
I hate my. Don't write these down, Grant.
Let's go with Diggs. Let's go. Let's see. Diggs had 800 and something last year with Notre Dame, but he also had almost 200 carries. So let's put him at 600.
Oh God.
I'll go under that.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to have 600. I think he's going to take a lot from Josh, but it's going to be kind of even.
So under on Diggs. Let's do we want to do
Mason
how many running
Taylor.
backs do we want to do?
That's
Mason
it.
Taylor touchdowns. John Emery touchdowns. Over under
let's
3.5.
Let's do one more running back and touchdowns. So we're gonna do Noah Cain, who had 10 rushing touchdowns last year. Over under 8 touchdowns for Noah Cain.
That's a good one.
There's just so many guys. Like
Noah Cain touchdowns.
I'll go with 7.
Because he could sneak in on the goal line.
If I think our offense is as good as it's going to be, we're going to be playing with the twos a lot. And I think Noah Cain's in that second group of rotations. And you could see them getting conservative, running the football. I'm going to go over.
Over 8. I like it. Brett, under.
Under. I'm a new man. I'm a changed man. Unders and plus signs.
All right, let's go to receivers. So Malik Neighbors had 1,000 yards receiving last year. I'm going to put it at 1,200.
Over.
And in comparison, okay, I like it. Single season, where was it at? Receiving yards, single season. If he had 1,200 yards even, that would put him for 5th all time, which is just crazy to think that he would be that high already. Shit, last year he's ranked 10th in the single season record with 1,017.
Featured.
Yeah, it feels like he's going to get more opportunities. Like it feels like he didn't even have
both
much,
over
early in the season.
1,200.
I didn't think he was close to that last year, so that was surprising to me. So based on those statistics,
the last 3 games he did.
Yeah. Oh,
the bowl game counted in that.
Yeah.
Give me the under. I'm a changed man.
1,200.
The bowl games in that, he did go crazy in the bowl game.
Bowl games in all of these statistics.
But
he had.
You'd have to think maybe LSU's playing multiple bowl games.
Yeah, very true.
I mean,
think about that.
Yeah, it's true. He had 128 against Georgia and 163 against Purdue. Don't forget, he also had 72 catches. Let's do his catch number too. We'll get to that in a second. What do y'all want to do? 1,200 over under?
I get over.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking the under, barring a national championship, or if we play like Texas Tech in a bowl game.
So asterisk that.
Yeah,
he said,
there's caveats to everything.
But
so write this
he said
down.
Texas Tech is what
under unless we play Texas Tech in a bowl game.
What about receptions? We'll put it at 80. He had 72 last year. We'll put it at 80 receptions for your bell cow, your bell horse.
It's killing me how much like real estate Anderson has in my head, because every one of these fucking things I'm like, well, Anderson's going to take so much of that, like he's so good, and he's just like, am I going to get Jonathan Giles again? Like, is this going to fucking happen? Because I can't be more hyped on like a single human going into this season.
Yeah, we have Skylar Green
maybe
coming
Mason Smith.
Over 80.
Under.
Nice. All right, let's go to let's do. I don't know if besides Mason Taylor, are there any other receivers for yardage that we want to look at?
No, I mean, what are you going to do?
I was going to say
yards?
Brian Thomas touchdowns is what I was going to do next.
I like that.
He's going to have 10 touchdowns.
I was going to put it at 9.
What did he have last year?
Last year he had 5.
You're going to put it at 9?
Yeah.
I'll go over. The ball has to go somewhere. So I'll take like the first offensive over I have done. I think Mason Taylor's touchdown over under is interesting.
We'll get to that.
Oh, this is tough.
Well, you said he's the Reds.
I think he's, yeah. Did we lose Grant?
Even though Grant is frozen, you did say that Brian Thomas was the goblin. Like you gave him a grimace. Yeah, you're back. You gave him like he's the Hamburglar in the end zone.
Over 9 touchdowns.
All right, I like it. So y'all
over 9.5.
All right. Let's do Mason Taylor. And let's do his yards and touchdowns. So his yards last year he had 415 yards on the season. So let's put it at 500.
Under.
Yeah, under.
If he has 500 yards receiving, that'd be nuts.
He had a lot of like big sideline runs after his catches. Like he gobbled up a lot of yards in like single plays.
How many?
So he had 88 against Purdue. He had 63 against Georgia, and before that, he didn't have more than 40 in a game.
So. One? How many touchdowns did he have?
He had 3.
3.
So I was gonna put the over/under at 4.
Over.
I was gonna say I feel like last year, especially since he didn't, get in. I don't know. We didn't see him featured much. Like I think he's going to be more of a red zone. But then again, he got Pimpton and Brian Thomas and Neighbors. Like, dude, you're going to have to fight for the balls you get.
And we're going to have a ton of running backs. We're just going to try to or Jaden Daniels just runs it in.
Like, I know, but I think
the red zone's a good problem to have right now.
I think we're going to have a long game. Like I feel like we're going to have a lot of opportunities for scores. So under on the yardage, over on the touchdowns for Taylor.
Handshake agreement on that one.
Is there anyone else?
Pancakes. Over under 7.5.
Emory Jones.
Zay Lance Hurd.
Over under snaps over Daniel's head and against Florida State. We'll put it at 1.
We're not doing
no
that.
mistakes. No mistakes.
No snaps over the head.
Didn't we have one last year?
Yes, that was Dellinger.
Yeah, he had like a broken hand. Give him a break.
I forgot he was the center of week.
He was doing like the crown top.
He was
snaps.
projected the center, like he was the center to start.
That was the only person we had that knew how to throw the ball, and then he like broke his hand 3 weeks later.
Yeah, we taught him how to snap like 2 weeks before the opener.
Like, once again, what a wonderful position we're in just like 11, 12 months later that we're sitting here like with so many certainties across the board. Yeah. Whereas last year we had no clue what the fuck was going to happen, and they still got to the SEC championship game. It's crazy.
One more. Actually, we should save this if we do special teams. No, let's do it now. Aaron Anderson. Over under
0.5.
1.5 special teams touchdowns.
I'll go with the 1. I'll take the under.
I was gonna say I would be ecstatic if during this season I watched Aaron Anderson take one to the house and be like, "That's the dude." That solidifies all my thoughts. Now, two of those would be like, "Damn, dude, this dude's coming back." Like,
but that is something you really have to take into account. Like, we're gonna play Southern week 2 or whoever it is. Like, he could end up like having one of those Trey White games where it's like, well, every time they punt him the ball, he's just gonna house it.
What do you have it at? 1.5?
1.5, yeah.
I'm gonna play it safe. I'm gonna go under. He's gonna return 1.
Yep, I agree.
I think as a team we return at least 1 or 2, but yeah.
I mean, it's hard to do nowadays. I mean, like, you really need to be a dynamic, and he is. So I don't know. He's the first guy at the returner position that I felt is dangerous, like Tyrann Mathieu. Like, whenever we had Mathieu returning, it was like anytime he touches the ball, something's going to happen.
We didn't understand how good we had it because every time that little fucker walked back, we were like, yes,
get ready.
Something's going to happen. It was pretty much 90% of the time since then, I've been scared shitless when we have a guy back there to return a punt.
It was almost a decade of that, though.
I mean, Patrick Peterson absolutely is the
Patrick
same.
Peterson, Mo Claiborne, Trenton, Tridon
Holloway.
But like, I don't know. It's just I feel like for forever I was just like so excited whenever it was like time for punt. And it was like, well, you can't leave your seat. And now I want to go like hide in the bathroom for punts and just hope I come back and we have the ball.
We have time for a special teams breakdown.
Not only punts, but like I want to see us in our kick return game. Like if they're gonna shank it like short, like let's get out past the 35. Like let's do some business here. Let's stop putting like Noah Kane back there to just kind of like take some hits on the 20.
I agree. It just feels like everyone just kicks it out of the end zone. Like I'd rather just come out of a TV timeout with the ball set on the 25 than have to like listen to Gary and then go back to commercial and do it. Like whatever.
Are we moving on? What's the
Good
next
show.
what's the
Anything
next
else?
seg?
That was really all the major segmentes.
I think we can. I think special teams we can do during defense.
Yeah,
we can.
The
Group that
game I
in.
have was not complete yet, which
Oh
we
my
have time because we're doing a special team segment revolved around that. So
Okay, that's cool. I mean, we're
next
close
week,
to a
defense.
2-hour pod here. I think we did a great job.
We've had a lot of road dogs in the
We did.
watching and
We did.
everything through the whole. So shout out to you guys. Share it with your friends. Tell your butt buddies that it's the only place to go to get hard hitting takes like this.
Yeah, man, it was a fun time. We'll come back next week and discuss some defense, some special teams.
I do like that we pushed the pod back a day to talk some Johnny Manziel doc, and then we just didn't.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week, I guess.
One day. We'll get there one day.
All right, boys. Over now.